In this episode of the Clarity Digital Pod, I sat down with longtime marketing executive Amy Barzdukas to discuss how marketing is shifting under the weight of AI, economic uncertainty, and evolving leadership expectations. With experience ranging from Microsoft and HP to early stage startups, Amy brought a unique perspective on what's changing in marketing leadership and what it takes to succeed in this new era. All right, awesome. Hi, Amy. Welcome to Clarity Digital Pod.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Happy to have you, and it's nice to meet you. We met on LinkedIn. You had a really nice post that I want to talk to you about today. But before we do that, if you don't mind introducing yourself, that would be great.
Sure. I'm Amy Barzdukas, a longtime tech executive with experience in everything from huge companies like Microsoft and HP to startups you've probably never heard of. I've got a lot on my mind about what's changing in marketing and in the various roles, and I'm happy to be here to talk about it with you.
Awesome. Yeah, let's talk about it. What's going on? And it's a lot is changing in our field. I sense it. It's happening to us, and we're trying to get us stay above the water. But what are your takes on all the changes that are happening because of the digital transformation, AI, economy, everything?
Unfortunately, not a lot of it is good as far as I can tell. I think we certainly what I consider to be often performative layoffs across the tech industry are not helpful. I think there's also expectations around how much AI can do. I spoke with the CEO of a company earlier this week who said he's pretty sure that what it takes 50 people to do in marketing today could be done with 5 with the right AI tools. And I was like, I don't know that it's 5. I think it certainly can be done fewer. And then just this morning, I ran a couple of experiments with one of the LLMs to write some marketing plans for me. And I have to say they were infinitely better today than they were 4 months ago.
Yeah.
So you still have to know what the prompt is to get it to spit out something useful, but it's going to change the landscape significantly.
Is it AI that is causing the expectations to be the way you just described it, or is it this data economy that is forcing the higher ups to come up with alternative, more affordable ways to get things done?
I think if you look back over the last decade in the C-suite, the CMO has always been the shortest tenure. And there have been a lot of people much more eloquent than I who've talked about the fact that marketing is generally not well understood. And to a certain extent, I think marketers bear the burden of not having done a good job of talking about and demonstrating what we actually do. If you're looking to hire a CFO, the person you're talking to in hiring and the hiring manager probably have pretty similar ideas of what a CFO does. But if you're talking about a head of marketing, this person over here may think marketing is about trade shows, and this person over here thinks marketing is about leads and only leads. And this person over here doesn't want to invest in brand building, so they don't value brand because they don't understand it. And so all of those forces, I think now, in a world where people are wanting smaller teams, more automation, more AI, they just are all exacerbated. And it puts even more pressure on the role and for marketers to be able to persuasively demonstrate the value they bring to the table.
Yeah, and especially when the economy is unstable or there's a lot of uncertainties, I notice everybody goes low funnel and they don't want immediate results. Let's hire a sales guy instead of a marketer and do more cold outreach. Okay.
Yeah.
And they go after quantity to get, and that's, you said something really interesting earlier about we haven't done a good job explaining what we do. Is it because we didn't do a good job, or is it because every environment we worked for was just marketing roles were so different from one environment to another environment?
I think it's a little bit of both. I've been very fortunate in a couple of the roles that I've had where the CEO valued marketing and valued valued me as the CMO as not just the person at the table to speak only from marketing, but also as a strategic business leader. And I think when you've had that experience and you go someplace else and just make it pretty, that means that probably in the interview process, maybe I didn't do such a great job of explaining what I'm good at. But certainly all of these different ways that marketing can be realized is a challenge. There's also a lot of marketing, no more CMOs. Right now we're going to have a chief customer officer. We don't need CMOs. You still need the function. And I think people need to understand that what marketing isn't just shilling, isn't just driving leads, but it's a whole set of strategies that support the business strategy to accelerate growth and drive the business forward. And if you can really be sharp about that's what marketing does and what you can bring to the table, I think there's a lot of opportunity.
I agree with you. And that's an unfortunate trend. I interviewed someone who was on the sell side and he said, oh, yeah, we got to absorb the role of CMO on a B2B company and between us and the product. I'm like, okay, so who's going to do your branding? And he's like, we're going to have to hire a branding person. Like they don't think about who's going to do the whole like customer, create content for different parts of the funnel, because you're a sales guy, you're not going to do it. The product person is not going to do it. They're just going to keep creating like product feature content. So there's a lot of gap in between. And I think that's really the unfortunate thing even I as a vendor deal with when we are pulled in as a marketing agency. We tend to be more transparent about what we are really good at. We are good at SEO, SEM, paid advertising. We do a lot of marketing support, but don't rely on us to create awesome decks for you. But we do it as a complementary service, as a service, supportive service. But I think defining marketing has been a challenge for many organizations. And I think more than ever for B2B companies, and because they're so depending on the sales cycle as well. And startups in particular, because they have no brand equity. I have contracted through another agency that I used to work for with brands like Microsoft and Apple, and they have such a strong brand equity and they have such a pretty reliable products that they can get away with a lot of inefficiencies in the marketing that maybe a startup can. So startups,
that's totally fair. Yeah. I think a lot of when I was doing PR in different stints at Microsoft, a large part of our job was getting people not to write stories. And then when I was working at a startup called Whitetricity, I was focused on getting people to write stories.
Yeah. And I see that happening a lot. And there's pros and cons with both. I think working with startups, you really have to come outside of your comfort zone. But then they look at you as depending on where they're at, as a lead gen person or biz dev person. And okay, how come one of our clients would question, I didn't know what the tool Apollo was. I know it now, but this is a couple of years ago. Like, how come you don't know? I tell you're a marketing person. I'm like, this seems like a cold outreach. Like, why would I know this tool? This is so defining what marketing is. And I think that's probably job of the CEO, but I've noticed a lot of CEOs dump that on the CMO. I read an article that I think I shared with you about the role of CMO being redefined. And I think you agree with me about how we have to, I'm not a CMO. I am a fractional CMO at a startup. They're more of a client, but what are your takes? Do CMOs, obviously everybody needs to learn new things, but I think, as you mentioned earlier, it's the shortest tenure of all the C-level. CMOs they have to be on their toes a lot more than the other C-level.
I think the introduction of AI and even what we know about search engine optimization, it's a whole new world now where you wanted to create position zero content on Google. That is now an AI summary. So that's not a goal anymore. And so it's like all of the pieces of the puzzle are still there, but they've been turned around and spun up and put into different kinds of pictures. So you have to stay up on the tech and you have to stay up on what's changing and you have to be conversant with it. And at the same time, you still have to do your job of all the other stuff you were already doing. So it is a very challenging space.
You still have to have your QBR reports and your
Yes.
weekly reports at the C levels, and so it's a combination of EQ, IQ, and what was the third one that I learned? I think is like PQ, like political, like or
Aha.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a little bit of everything. It's just like it's such a. But I did interview somebody who was a CMO. He said that CMOs that can get through this will become the best CEOs because now they're very like well rounded, and there's going to be a lot of drop offs because people just won't be able to keep up. Not only with CMOs but also marketers. Like I'm an by trade I'm a search marketer, and that, like you said, position zero in Google. For many people, it's not even Google anymore. It's ChatGPT, Perplexity. The search is happening somewhere else, right? It's not even
Right.
happening in Google. So how do you do this decentralized search marketing where people are researching on TikTok about their next vacation and or how they remodel their homes in Pinterest? And I use Perplexity a lot for a lot of search. I still use Google, but so how do you capture all that? And that is something that we marketers are still trying to figure out. I release articles every day, a bunch of newsletters. No one is an expert, and we're all just learning and sharing
Yes.
insight as we go along. And I think that's happening across, but I think marketing saw it first.
Yes.
I see coders are beginning to be worried about it.
Oh, yeah.
Jobs. Yeah, I vibe code now because I have a programming computer science undergrad degree. I don't code anymore, but I can understand code, and it's a lot easier to code now. You just know how to prompt, and it will give you the code. You just got to know how to plug it and deploy it, and it
Right.
will work. And it's things are changing a lot with AI, and I think we have to see how they transfer. But meanwhile, I think economy, and correct me if I'm wrong, has a lot to do with it, because if we had a prosperous economy where companies were not worried about the next quarter, or are we going to get hit by another tariffs or whatever, then they wouldn't pressure the marketing team so much to be efficient. Or
I think that's partially true. I think the economy, in combination with this kind of constant, hey, we're laying people off, don't you want to buy more of our stock kind of
Mhm.
activities? And I think it's having a disproportionately negative impact on people who are later in career.
Yeah.
So if I am trying to run this team as cheaply and leanly as possible, I don't want somebody who's got 20 years experience. I want the bright kid who's, I believe, to be an AI native,
Yeah.
which rankles me significantly because I have stayed on top of what's going on in
Mhm.
10. I've gone and lived through multiple shifts. It's not like this is a
Yeah.
new thing to have to learn, but the companies don't want to have to pay for those years of experience. And so I
Sure.
know in my case, I wrote about it on LinkedIn. I'm in a job hunt right now. And I know when my resume lands on the desk, they think too senior, too expensive, and probably some other things. But I think it's hard to counter that because honestly, what you need that CEO and that e-staff who appreciate and value that kind of wisdom and experience and pattern matching that comes from a little bit of time. And there's a lot of headwinds against it.
I agree with you. And we have audited many Google Ads account that was created by these AI forward kids straight out of college, and there's AI is a good tool, at least at the State of Union. It's getting better, but still, it's very data reliant, and
Mhm.
it's very prompt in terms of content and code creation, prompt reliant. But even when it comes to advertising, you have to know what are you doing. You have to have a good strategy. You can't just turn on the Performance Max campaign and expect to deliver results. You have to do analysis. You have to be listening to the calls, transcriptions,
Right.
and you have to do the quality work that people like you and I have gained that knowledge throughout years of experience. And I'm dealing with the same problem too, because having been doing the search marketing and digital marketing for almost 2 decades, why me, where they can get someone a lot cheaper who was
Right.
born into all this. And yes, there's advantage of getting this younger, more energetic kids, but then it comes to the point where, hey, you're wasting dollar amounts, your leads aren't truly qualified leads. How do we help you? And this is how you do it. And having AI more as a very intelligent assistant rather than your pilot, I think that's the way to go, at least for the time being. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I think you're right. I think you have to, I don't think you can overemphasize understanding what questions to ask to get valuable answers out of AI. So if you don't know the right questions, you're not going to put the right prompt in, and you're going to end up with a lot of mediocrity. And if you are doing this and your direct competitor is doing the same thing, you're going to end up with the same at the same place, which isn't how you differentiate, right? So you have to be able to ask really good questions and understand your business strategy to be able to truly be effective. And I think AI is a tool, and as all tools, anything that automates, it can replace some labor, but it doesn't replace the ingenuity and the creativity and how you can bring all of these things together to create a really great campaign.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you're selling to humans. I remember, I can see AI videos versus non-AI. Those little avatars where they keep blinking. I'm like, okay, this is an AI one, and sometimes I don't mind it, but a lot of times I do. It doesn't work for me. Humans want to buy from humans, talk to other humans. We are very social beings, and I think we're gonna go. This is reminding me a lot of .com days where everybody was throwing a lot of money creating flash intros on their websites and stuff like
Right.
that, and it didn't really work. And then, like, where is Flash now out of business? It had a lot of issues. It was slow. It was not SEO friendly. They created the entire website in Flash. I'm like, why? And at the end of the day, yes, we are. I think there's going to be some. What I'm trying to say is that it's going to be some adjustments here where companies are going to figure out, okay, we have to use AI, but in a correct way. We can't just rely on everything. And I'm going to give you another example. I was looking at a client who they just use AI for a finalized blog post, no editing, no nothing. And they're like, hey, they're a SaaS company. They're like, we're generating a lot of plumber traffic. And I'm like, I don't know, let me look into it. Few of the blog posts, a plumber had injected they call it prompt injection into AI, where you train AI. Someone asks you a certain question, they give you, and it was mentioning him. So his name was on all these other websites. So he was a pretty smart plan, and he was getting a lot of mentions and possibly traffic from all sort of websites. So I'm like, okay, so this is why you want to double check your AI work. AI hallucinates, and all depends on how much data you give it. I took a prompt engineering course in Coursera. I realized there's different way you can give it a prompt, a different style of prompting, and you just have to know that it's a very powerful, intelligent automation. But at the end of the day, you have to be in charge. You have to run the show, and the sooner companies realize that, the less mistake they will make.
Yes. Yeah. And the tools are getting better all of the time.
Yes.
And I think that's where you need to figure out where as a marketer, your superpower is that AI can't do. And know and understand that. Is it just a wicked creativity that puts this idea together and voila? Yeah. I've used AI to generate brand names. Some of them are absolutely dreadful. Some of them are surprising. Okay, that's yeah. But you got to know the difference. And if you don't know the difference, I just am frightened to see what brand names may come out in the next couple of years.
Yeah. So let's switch away from AI and talk about CMO a little bit more. One thing that's emerging a lot, and this happened before AI, was the role of fractional CMO. A lot of companies, mainly startups, but even non-startups, are pulling in a lot of they hire fractional CMOs. I know some of the CMOs I used to work for, now they're doing that. That's what they have to do for a living, and they're actually making more money that way, and they can maintain the lifestyles, a flexible lifestyle. What are your takes on the role of fractional? Is that something that you think you'd be interested in doing?
I think it is interesting, and I think it depends on the individual. For myself, I really want to be a business partner, and a fractional CMO is much more like being a consultant.
That's exactly what it is, just a consultant leader.
Yeah. And would I personally turn down a role? Probably not, but it's also not my dream. I think my dream is to be able to sit there with the other leaders of the business and build out the strategy and brainstorm the GTM and come up with the right solutions and figure out what the growth strategy is and where are the new areas for expansion. Like that's the stuff that's really fun.
Yeah.
And I think as a fractional CMO, you are probably more relegated to the funnel.
Yeah.
Or a project based, we need to overhaul our website. So we need somebody to look after that. And that's great work. It has to get done. It's good to have good brains on it. But I have never been great as a consultant. And even right now, as I'm consulting with some startups, it's super frustrating because I can see and think, okay, this is what you should do, but I can't make sure they do it, right?
Yeah, exactly what you're talking about. We are, as an agency partner, some stuff we're in control of, let's say Google Ads, but stuff like SEO, sometimes a lot of it's just recommendations. Hey, you have this issue with your website, you got to fix it. Oh, it's in the backlog. We'll get to it when we get to it. And then where is your SEO traffic down? You have a lot of issues there that we already told you have to fix. Larger brands, smaller brands, we go in there and fix it, but larger brands, somebody else is in charge of their websites, and I could totally relate to that. And I think another thing that I saw where I was a B2B marketing exchange, which is a conference that happens in Scottsdale, I think it's coming to San Diego starting next year, that I really enjoy. I was on a workshop. It was called CMO workshop, but a new term that's emerging in the B2B side is CRO, Chief Revenue Officer, which is essentially the sales and marketing. And that is something that happening more like CMO is still there, but just taking on more responsibilities. Now you're in charge of sales too. And I think that's a little bit more realistic and for some industries, but then again, we're talking, and it's a lot easier for that to be done for startups, but like for a company like Microsoft, how do you do that?
Yeah, I think the chief revenue officer, in my experience, particularly in PE environments or smaller environments, tends to be run by a sales leader who has then a head of marketing working for him or her. And so it's a little bit putting marketing as subservient to sales. Yeah. And so when that happens, a couple of things tend to happen. Sales, by its very nature, is deal driven and time driven. And so it's all about making the quarter or making the half, and so the marketing starts to think in those same time horizons, which is very short term, right? But you build brand equity and you build customer confidence one at a time over time. And so if all of your time and energy is on what do we get done by the last day of this month, you're thinking in time horizons that don't give you the opportunity to think about the kind of longer term investments that build brand equity and really build businesses to become brand names.
Yeah. Good stuff. Thank you. I'm running out of topics. Do you want to talk about something I may have not asked, or you think it's important to talk about related?
Yeah, I think it's interesting to talk about. Marketing is traditionally, we think about marketing as being the partner to sales. But in my experience, particularly when companies are going through mergers, acquisitions, going through times of transition, marketing needs to be a super great partner with HR as well. And I think one of the ways that marketers can bring more of their value to the table is by focusing on building those partnerships with other members of the executive team. Yeah. HR is an obvious one. Happy employees are your best marketers in the world. Sure. They get the story out there. But the same goes through with having a great regular relationship with the legal team. Legal and marketing need to get along, and you guys can do great favors to one another to help broaden the story. And it's not just marketing isn't just about sales. It's really
Yeah,
about,
don't forget the CFOs because they are the one that approve a lot of the budgets, and
that's right.
they tend to look at numbers in terms of ROI, and you have to have good relationship with them in order to, if you don't have that handy, so you can
That's
trust.
right.
Yeah.
I think it's, when you're a senior marketing leader and you're talking to the other senior leaders, you have to talk in the language of the boardroom, and that is numbers. And so you need to be able to lead with authority based on the numbers, speaking in the language, and then you can earn the right to talk about things that are less totally measurable.
Yeah, it's definitely a very challenging position being a marketing leader because I earlier on in my career when I had an appetite going that direction, when I saw what it entailed, oh, you got to talk to this person this way. I'm like, I only know one way to speak, and that's I'll stay in my lane. I call myself more of a CMO whisperer. I'm really close to CMOs. I let them know what they need from a marketing tech stack perspective strategy, but I let them do all the dirty work, and I'll stay out of it. Cool. Let's just ask a couple of personal questions. Where are you based out of?
I am based in beautiful San Jose, California.
Oh, nice. Very nice. I'm here in Irvine, so we're not that far. I used to be in San Diego, moved a little bit more north. And then what do you like to do when you're not marketing or you're being an awesome CMO? What are some of your hobbies?
So I think you can see the tennis racket in the background. That is a signed Chris Evert Wimbledon tennis racket. And if I'm
It's a
not,
tennis. For a quick second, I thought it was a cricket thing, but it's actually a tennis racket. Yeah. Cool.
yeah. So when I'm not working, I'm often to be found on the tennis court.
Do you play pickleball? A lot of former tennis players are doing that.
I have played pickleball, but as long as I can move around on the big court, I'll stick with tennis.
Got it. Yeah, tennis is fun. And then I guess my last question would be actually two more questions. Where can people find you? I'm assuming LinkedIn. Do you have your own website?
You can find me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I'm also on Blue Sky under the
Sky.
handle Shoebender.
Sure, awesome. And the last question would be a little tricky. If you could be a superhero, what would it be?
Ooh, wow. I would be a superhero who could fly. I don't know what I would do with that particular skill, but I just think it would be amazing to be able to fly. So I'll come back to you with then what I do with those powers, but it would be for good and not for evil.
Cool. Awesome. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And good luck to you. Find the next opportunity. I'm sure things will get better for all of us. I hope it does.
So too.
Thank you so much. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.